Greetings, brethren. I want to talk with you briefly and share with you briefly concerning the topic of freedom, liberty, what it means, its effects, how to attain it, etc. I was listening to a song this morning by a man named Robin Mark. I listened to a number of his worship songs, and one of them I was listening to, it's entitled All for Jesus. And I don't know if anyone's ever heard it, but part of the chorus of that melody goes like this: "For it's only in your will that I am free. For it's only in your will that I am free. For it's only in your will that I can be Jesus. All for Jesus. All I am and have and ever hope to be." And so, even though those are very simple words, there's great truth attached to them. It's only in the will of God that we can be free. Now, the world has different definitions of what it means to be free and how to exercise freedom and how to attain it. The world thinks that just the act of you being able to do whatsoever your wicked heart desires is freedom. The world thinks, the fleshly man, the fallen man thinks and supposes that just because he may have the physical ability to execute his will and to bring to pass his will and to achieve and acquire his own fallen human nature desires, that he is a free being. People think because they have certain legislature and laws in place that they can do and say and be whatever they want, and that makes them free. But no, you see, freedom is not a physical, material thing. It is not circumstantial. It is an internal thing. Freedom is on the inside, and therefore bondage or being a slave or being enslaved to something also takes place on the inside. It doesn't matter, truly, what your outward circumstances are. It doesn't matter the chaos, the dysfunction, the lack of physical liberality, or the laws that are put in place that restrict certain kind of human commerce or behavior or beliefs. That does not matter. Freedom is on the inside, and that is where freedom begins. And true freedom is being in the will of God. True freedom is literally being conformed to the nature of Jesus Christ. True freedom is being filled with the ways of God, possessing the mind of Christ, having the mind of Christ, seeing the world through Christ's eyes, and having a heart that is conformed to his ways. That is true freedom. God himself is a free entity, a free individual. He is not bound by anything. He is a law to himself, and he is utterly and completely free from corruption. He does not have a taskmaster over him, whipping him, demanding of him to do this or that. God is the law. God is freedom. And those who are conformed to him share in that freedom. They become partakers of the divine nature and escape the corruptions that are in the world through lust. And so here's what I want to say, my friends, is to be free. It doesn't matter what country you live in, what your circumstances are, where you work, what you do for a living. It doesn't matter how much money you have or how much money you don't have. It doesn't matter what your physical conditions are, whether or not you're a paraplegic. It doesn't matter if you're blind, if you're deaf, if you're missing limbs, if you're missing fingers. It doesn't matter how incapable you are of doing this or that. It doesn't matter if you are in jail because of crimes which you have committed. Freedom is not circumstantial. Freedom is on the inside. And that's where Jesus Christ comes to set men free first. The internal changes which occur as a result of encountering Jesus Christ and coming to know him begin to change your outward circumstances, because the inward impulse must be altered before the outward things begin to alter and change. So my friend, my advice, and truly the advice of God himself, the scriptures teach us these things plainly. If we want to be rid of this or that, or if we want things to start happening this way or that way, they must pass through the filter of God's will, of God's nature, of God's ways. And if it doesn't get through there, that is not something that belongs anyways. We must delight ourselves in the ways of God, and we must seek to be conformed to his ways. And this way, we will be free. You see, our wanters, that mechanism inside of us that causes us to want things, it is broken. It's like a software program with a virus on it, okay? It needs debugged. We need to begin to want what is right. And you see, when you're conformed and in alignment with and in harmony with and in agreement with and a partaker of God's nature and God's ways, you will say effectively and truly, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. You will want no good thing. You will not be in want. You will not be in need of any good thing. And so the real ticket to real freedom is walking in the ways of Jesus Christ and seeking the things of the Spirit. The things of the flesh will bring you into bondage. And if you feel bound up, if you feel trapped, if you feel like things aren't going your way, it's because somehow Satan and his minions, which are at work all around us, have found a way to manipulate you to get into the flesh in very subtle manners. Believe me. You and I must get back into the Spirit. We must set our mind on things above and be filled with God's ways, and thus we shall be free. Our outward circumstances in many ways may not ever change in regards to certain things, but God wants to do an internal liberation. It's an internal freedom, where no longer is our happiness and our joy and our peace dependent upon outward scenarios or circumstances, but rather it's generating from a place of eternal bliss with God. And therefore it won't matter what you're going through. Yes, physical circumstances can have an effect on your insides. Yes, they can manipulate you and influence you, but you must get realigned and recentered and harmonized with God, with his word, with his will, with his ways, with his heart and his mind. As any real freedom goes, if you're going to have it, there must be a battle. Even to have freedom, there's a war. And even to maintain freedom, there are battles and skirmishes which must take place. And so you and I must fight to stay free. As Paul said in the book of Galatians, stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made you free, and be not entangled again with a yoke of bondage. Don't be entangled again with a yoke of serving the flesh, with a yoke of worldliness, with a yoke of self-pity, with a yoke of the lusts of the flesh, which are like a taskmaster whipping you and demanding you to bow down and serve it and do its work. But no, obey from the heart the doctrine of Jesus Christ, so that you may be free.